Hi everyone, my name is Kate Cadenhead and I am the Training and Education Coordinator at Travis County, and we're a part of Health and Human Services, and our program is called Coming of Age. And so Coming of Age and the Aging Services Council are launching our Neighborhood Ambassador Program orientation training. And the Neighborhood Ambassador Program serves Travis County and the seniors and older adults that live here. And so neighborhood ambassadors serve in our community where they live and they work. And ambassadors get to know older adults in their community and really find out what their most pressing issues and concerns are. And then ambassadors find ways to help them address those issues and concerns by giving them information that's senior relevant around resources, referrals, and education that's really going to help them meet their basic day-to-day needs while also helping them improve the quality of their lives. Now, on our website for the Neighborhood Ambassador Orientation, there's some documents that you should print out prior to watching the video. And so they include the Neighborhood Ambassador application, the Neighborhood Ambassador Sample Monthly Report Log, the Neighborhood Ambassador Blank Monthly Report Log, the Neighborhood Ambassador Confidentiality Agreement, the Aging Services Council one-sheeter, the Coming of Age Timeline, the Coming of Age at a Glance document, the Community Connection for Older Adults newsletter, the PowerPoint, the Resource Manual, the Neighborhood Ambassador Program Orientation Manual, and then the Contact Information slide. And so what we're going to do is, you may hear me flipping through some pages. I just want to make sure that I appropriately cover all of the information for you. And so let's talk about some of those documents that I just listed. Others we're going to talk about as we move through each section of this training, but let's go ahead and talk about a couple of them. And in a minute, I'll talk to you about the Neighborhood Ambassador Orientation Manual and then that resource manual that I mentioned earlier. And so what I'd like you to do first is to go to that Coming of Age Timeline document. And this document really talks about how we converted from RSVP to Coming of Age starting in 1972 and running until 2010, which is when we made the conversion. And so we have two major focuses there, which is to help people who are 50 plus really explore their futures and become community leaders, pursue lifelong learning, and then engage in meaningful volunteer service. So that's our first major focus. And our second major focus is to really help nonprofits more effectively market their volunteer opportunities so that they can recruit and retain skilled and passionate, resourceful volunteers who are aged 50 plus. So that's the Coming of Age timeline. If you guys would turn to that document called At a Glance, and this gives you some information about Coming of Age's signature programs for people who are 50 plus, as well as our signature programs for organizations. And what you'll notice there is that the sixth sort of star there is the Neighborhood Ambassador Program that we're going to be talking about today. And then the next thing is that Community Connection for Older Adults newsletter. We're going to be talking about that later when we get into section number 2. We'll be talking about that somewhat in section number 5 also. Then you have the PowerPoint, if you'd like to print that out and make some notes as we go along. And then the contact information for myself, and then also the Community Engagement Coordinator, who also is a part of this program, and her name is Deborah Price. Okay, so let's go to the manual now. This is your Neighborhood Ambassador Orientation Manual. And so it's going to consist of 5 different sections, okay? And each section will allow the maximum flexibility and convenience for you to view each section so it's easier to follow along. And at the beginning of each section in the manual, I'll let you know which section we're on, what's going to be in that section, and then when we are transitioning to a new section. So let's go ahead and look at the manual briefly so you can understand the design and how to best follow along. Okay, so behind the cover is the table of contents. And there you're going to see 5 sections, and that's how this orientation is going to be designed. So the first section is the program overview. Then the second section is that newsletter I just mentioned called the Community Connection for Older Adults. Third is an overview of the core issues. Fourth is how to find resources. And then 5 is your role as a neighborhood ambassador. And so that's the design of this particular orientation. So before we proceed, let's talk briefly about that resource manual that I just mentioned that you guys probably want to go ahead and print out. And This is going to be an extremely helpful tool for you. There's no other guide like this that I know of for Travis County, and it also covers information about counties around us that has great information related to older adults and their caregivers. And so, for example, it'll have information about housing and home health care and transportation and lots of other topics. And so the guide is information besides just Travis County for counties such as Bastrop County and Hays County, Williamson County, and those are just a couple of the ones. There is an extensive list of all the various counties that we have information for. And so I highly encourage you to go ahead and print out this guide if you haven't. I think it'll be extremely helpful to you if you decide that you want to go ahead and be a neighborhood ambassador. So next we're going to start with Section 1 of the PowerPoint in the manual. That starts on page 2 of your manual, where we're going to start with our welcome, our introduction, and then go ahead and proceed to section number 1. Okay, so on behalf of the Coming of Age and Aging Services Council, I'd like to go ahead and welcome everyone to the Neighborhood Ambassador Orientation Training. We're super excited that you're here today and that you've taken the time to learn more about our program and are considering becoming an ambassador, because if you choose to do so, you're making a significant investment in terms of taking care of your neighbors and your friends and your family. And so we have a lot of information to share, so let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to start with an agenda so that we can familiarize yourself with everything that we're going to be talking about in this orientation. And so first, we're just going to give you an overview of the program to help familiarize yourself with it. Then we're going to look at that newsletter that I just mentioned in the opening remarks. It's called the Community Connection for Older Adults newsletter. That's going to be an important tool for you to learn more about. Then we're going to talk about some of the core issues that are currently impacting older adults that as an ambassador you might get frequent questions about. Section number 4 is going to be how to find resources and tools that may be helpful for you to share with older adults and their caregivers. And then last is your role as an ambassador, and we're going to be talking about that extensively in section number 5. We'll talk about it some here in this first section, and then what we're going to do is review and wrap up, and then we'll be all done with this orientation training. So let's get started with our introduction. And some recent surveys have been conducted that said that many older adults and their caregivers, they don't know where to turn to find reliable and accurate information about aging issues. And the need for this information is going to only increase as the population within Travis County continues to grow and to age. And aging issues don't just impact older adults, they really impact the entire community. And so what we seek to do is to empower individuals within area neighborhoods to provide information about aging services and referrals and resources for older adults that's going to also really help them improve the quality of their lives. So that's our introduction.